Professor Junjunwala, eminent participants in today's round table, and my dear colleagues. It gives me pleasure to welcome you all, and special welcome to Professor Junjunwala. He's come all the way from Chennai. As my colleague Leena said, it's a Sunday, and we are really sorry for inconveniencing you to attend this round table on a Sunday, but we are really encouraged by your response. Thank you. Friends, I had...
Meetings can be held on Sunday.
Friends, I had the pleasure of knowing and interacting closely with Professor Junjunwala when I was working in the NDA government for 6 years. And as Leena said, he is not only an eminent educator, but also a very distinguished inventor. And I was then a member of the group on telecom and IT. I learned a lot from Professor Junjunwala on the need to have our own solutions to our challenges in communication. Specifically, from him I learned the wireless in local loop, the Indian solutions that he and his colleagues at IIT Chennai produced, especially to meet the needs of expanding telecom services in rural areas, inexpensive but reliable. He is now a member of the Scientific Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. So when we conceptualized this roundtable, the first name we thought of for chairing it was Professor Junjunwala, and he readily acceded to our request. Thank you. Friends, today's roundtable is part of our continuing engagement with the issue of higher education. It began last year with our study on the draft National Commission for Higher Education and Research Bill. We have produced a report which some of you may have seen, and those who haven't seen may have a look at it. We strongly criticized this draft bill for all its shortcomings, especially its intent to create an over-centralized, highly bureaucratic super regulator for all streams of higher education. And we are encouraged to know that our critique and also the criticism that the draft bill received from many quarters has forced the government to redraft the bill. Hopefully it will be a better bill. We followed up with a study on reforms in medical education following the disbanding of the Medical Council of India, MCI, which, as we all know, was engaged in rampant corruption. Our study is almost complete and it will be published soon. We also produced two other smaller studies on higher education, one of them by my colleague Radha Vishwanathan, which deals with a very important aspect, and that is what is the correlation between excellence and equity. It's a complex debate, and I suggest to you that you please take a copy of it and read it, give your comments. The second essay is something that we are soon going to release. It's by Leena. And now we are here for a roundtable on yet another study by ORF on science education in India's college system, which has been undertaken by my colleague Dr. Katrina Correa, who will shortly make a presentation which will kick off the roundtable discussion. Friends, permit me to share some introductory thoughts on today's subject. The very formulation of today's title, Whither Science Education in Indian Colleges Today, it conveys a sense of concern, even a sense of alarm. All of us know that there is something seriously lacking in science education in particular, but also higher education in general. During my 6 years in government, I had an opportunity to attend every single session of the Indian Science Congress, which, as you know, is invariably inaugurated by the Prime Minister on 3rd of January each year. And the common refrain of Prime Minister, then Prime Minister Vajpayee ji, in each of these 6 sessions that he addressed was a lament about the state of science education. And I find that the same refrain can be found in Dr. Manmohan Singh's addresses to the Science Congress last 7 years. So it raises a question, why hasn't anything changed? Or if something has changed, then why isn't it not quantifiably, qualitatively different? Why are we again addressing the same problem and raising the same issues? It seems to me that this is because there is a disconnect, friends, between our recognition of the problem and our ability to solve it collectively. How do we go forward? My personal view is that we cannot really rely on government alone or government primarily to solve this problem. A term that has now become current, civil society, of which we are all a part. We have to become active because education is too important a subject to be left to bureaucrats, to be left to people in government. It concerns us, it concerns the future generations, it concerns the future of India. So, the challenge, in my opinion, is to create the same kind of pressure on reforms in higher education, of which reforms in science education is a part, which can build the necessary pressure on the government to act. And civil society has actually shown that it can energize itself. In recent times, we have seen how civil society has put pressure on government on the issue of corruption. Can we do the same on the issue of reforms in education? At least those who are direct stakeholders in higher education, can we energize ourselves? Can we build a strong enough pressure on reforms, which are absolutely critical? I would like us to deliberate on this today. Just 2 more small points I would like to place before you. It's my conviction that although we should learn from successes abroad, ultimately we have to find our own solutions to our problems. In fact, our reliance on ideas coming from, excessive reliance rather, on ideas coming from abroad has been one of the reasons why things have not changed much. The old concept of self-reliance, which unfortunately has gone out of fashion, has to be brought back. Lastly, it's also my conviction that when we discuss science education, we should not limit ourselves to science education in the mainstream education field. There is a vast population, Indian population, that is outside the mainstream education, and yet is contributing enormously to our well-being, our prosperity. All of us know that nearly 90% of the workforce in India has had very little to do with mainstream education, much less with higher education. And yet, they can be made enormously productive. Their quality, efficiency can go up if science education can reach them, and science education can also be enriched by their knowledge and their experience. After all, our farmers, our craftspeople, our artisans, they're all inheritors of a very rich knowledge tradition. You know, India is an ancient nation. All science hasn't really come to us in the last 100, 200 years. We have created a very strong scientific tradition here. Why have we lost sight of it? Why is it not part of our education system? So friends, this is yet another aspect, very inadequately debated, but in my opinion, very important. So, we at ORF look forward to a very fruitful discussion today. Please participate actively, and knowing Professor Jhunjhunwala, he encourages very frank discussion. We don't have to be politically correct here. So let's benefit from today's discussion, and I request you to contribute to our study so that when our report is ready, it can make a very distinctive and useful contribution to the debate. Thank you very much.